Hey everyone, and welcome right back to our explainer. Today, we're jumping into a story that, honestly, on the surface, it seems pretty modest. We're talking about a broken-down vehicle, a sudden storm, and a really simple cup of tea. But hidden right inside this short, grounded anecdote, which is titled The Scholar's RAINBOUND Hospitality, is this absolutely profound lesson about human connection. It's about vulnerability and the art of just holding space for one another. It's a great reminder that sometimes the absolute most meaningful moments in our lives are born out of sheer inconvenience. So let's break down exactly how this unexpected detour transformed into what is essentially a masterclass in empathy.
Okay, let's dive into this. Have you ever had your entire day completely derailed in an instant? You know the feeling. Well, our source narrative kicks off with exactly that kind of wildly frustrating scenario. A traveling scholar is just driving along when, boom, their vehicle completely breaks down. They're stuck. Now, they are in the vicinity of a village, but after a really quick assessment, that sinking realization sets in. There is absolutely no repair service anywhere nearby to help them out. It's that moment of sheer helplessness we can literally all relate to. But remembering that a former student actually resides in this very village, the scholar decides to just head over to his home to seek some assistance. It's a total leap of faith, born entirely out of necessity.
But literally, the second they arrive at the student's doorstep, the sky just completely opens up. The source text specifically notes the sudden onset of inclement weather, specifically heavy rainfall. I want you to try to imagine that intense sensory shift for a second. The harsh, metallic frustration of staring at a broken engine is just suddenly replaced by the loud, roaring urgency of a massive downpour. The scholar isn't just dropping by for a quick visit anymore, right? They are trapped. The text outright states they were completely unable to depart. So the whole focus of the narrative shifts instantly right here. It pivots from trying to fix a mechanical problem on the side of the road to a desperate, immediate search for sanctuary and shelter from the raging elements outside.
So the student welcomes his former teacher inside, and we get this really quick but totally revealing glimpse into his personal world. He informs the scholar of his solitary living situation. He lacks any immediate family in the home. It is literally just him. And this brilliantly illustrates a really poignant contrast that the source text wants us to feel. Here is a young man living in total isolation, yet his immediate reflex? It's one of profound, unhesitating warmth. He doesn't complain about the sudden intrusion at all. Instead, he courteously invites the dripping wet scholar to take a seat and immediately offers a beverage to sort of ward off the chill of the storm.
Leaving the scholar in the main room to dry off and, just catch their breath, the student then retires to the kitchen. Now, I want us to intentionally slow down right here, just like the narrative does. Think about the pacing of this specific moment. You've got the chaotic, noisy rain just hammering on the roof outside, bringing all this stress and unpredictability. But inside the kitchen, there's a quiet, deliberate calm. The student is consciously shifting into the role of a host. He is moving with the careful, measured actions of someone who is honoring a respected guest, totally transforming his solitary space into a shared sanctuary.
Now, what's really interesting about this detail is this highly specific number, 3. The source explicitly mentions that this solitary student had exactly 3 distinct methods for preparing tea. Think about why this specific detail is included in such a short anecdote. It suggests this remarkable level of practiced ritual and a really deep appreciation for simple comforts. For a man living entirely alone, making tea isn't just some mindless task, it's a dedicated craft. He stands in his kitchen, evaluates his 3 distinct methods, and thoughtfully selects the absolute perfect one for this specific, completely unexpected occasion.
Let's see exactly how this builds. The student breaks this down into 3 distinct steps. First up, he procures a vessel. Second, he carefully adds the precise ingredients, water, tea powder, and milk to brew the tea. And finally, step 3, he decants the freshly prepared liquid into a cup. By laying out these exact steps, the text highlights that this isn't just a rushed act of obligation to get back to his day. Not at all. It's a methodical process. He is using his hands and his undivided attention to create physical comfort for someone who literally just walked out of a store.
So, with the steaming cup in hand, the student returns from the kitchen and presents it to the scholar. And man, a really quiet tension emerges right here. On one side, we have the student observing his former teacher's expression with intense anticipation. On the other side, the scholar taking that absolutely crucial first sip. This contrast perfectly captures the raw human vulnerability of waiting for a reaction. Will the respected teacher actually approve of it? Is the tea good enough? It's a universal feeling, isn't it? Offering something you've made with your own 2 hands, offering a piece of your hospitality and simply hoping it brings joy. And then, finally, the tension breaks. The scholar takes a sip and, wonderfully,
responded with a smile. It's a super simple, everyday gesture, but in the context of this stormy afternoon, it means absolutely everything. The scholar verbally affirms the tea's excellent quality. That single smile bridges the entire gap between the solitary student and the stranded traveler. The frustrating mechanical breakdown, the heavy rain pouring outside, the stress of the journey, all of it just fades into the background, replaced entirely by this grounded, beautiful moment of pure human connection over a shared cup of tea.
Which brings us to a final thought for you to carry with you today. How often do we find profound warmth in our own unexpected detours? The crucial takeaway here is this: life is inevitably going to hand us broken engines, sudden storms, and derailed plans. That's for sure. But it's in those unscripted, highly disruptive moments that we are often forced to slow down and actually allow others to help us. So, the next time your plans are completely upended, look for those quiet, shared rituals of hospitality, whether you're the one offering the cup or the one receiving it. Thank you so much for hanging out with me for this explainer. I really hope it gave you something great to think about, and I will catch you next time.
Hey everyone, welcome to this explainer. Today, we're doing something a little bit different. We're going to decode the entire software development lifecycle, and we're going to do it using nothing more than a simple kitchen counter. I absolutely love this approach because it takes a concept that usually sounds so incredibly technical and just completely breaks it down into an everyday experience we all know. So, you might be wondering, what on earth does making a cup of tea have to do with writing software? Well, we're kicking things off with this question to really challenge a common assumption. Too often, people think software development is just this chaotic, incomprehensible maze of code that only a handful of absolute geniuses can navigate. But what if I told you the process is actually as familiar as your morning routine? Okay, before we dive into the recipe itself, let's just quickly establish our baseline definition, just so we know exactly what process we're talking about here. The SDLC, the Software Development Lifecycle, is simply the step-by-step framework. It's the entire complete process required to build a reliable software system right from scratch. Simple enough, right? Here's the roadmap of our journey today. We'll start with an introduction to the SDLC, move on to ingredients and preparation, then brewing the software, testing the taste, deployment and delivery, and finally wrap up with the customer experience. Section 1. Introduction to the SDLC, from kitchen to code. Now, it might sound crazy at first, but these two processes, they are perfectly aligned. Think about it for a second. Skipping a step in your kitchen, like, say, forgetting to actually boil the water, completely ruins the tea, right? Well, in the exact same way, skipping a step in the SDLC is going to completely ruin your final software product. Structure is absolutely everything here. Section 2. Ingredients and preparation. Planning the brew. Before you can even think about preparing that tea, all of your required ingredients and tools have got to be collected and arranged. We need the basics: water, tea powder, milk, sugar, a vessel to cook in, a spoon, and of course, a teacup. You literally cannot start cooking if you don't know what you're throwing into the pot. And you know what? Collecting those kitchen ingredients is the exact equivalent of requirements elicitation in the software world. This is that crucial stage where developers sit down and gather up all the customer needs, all the specific features, and the tools they'll need before they write even a single line of code. It's all about getting prepared. Okay, so once we actually have our ingredients laid out, we have to decide how to use them, because there are usually multiple approaches to achieve the exact same goal. I mean, are we boiling the water first? Are we steeping the powder directly in the milk? The tea maker has to carefully evaluate these different preparation methods to see which one is going to work best. Now, comparing those different tea-making methods perfectly represents the analysis phase in software. You're evaluating your options. And then when you finalize that single best workflow, when you select the one method you're actually going to use, boom, that is the design phase. That's where the software architects choose the absolute best solution right before they start building. Section 3. Brewing the software, the action phase. All right, this is where things really get moving. Step by step, we pour the water into the vessel, we add our tea powder, we splash in the milk, and we bring that tea to a nice rolling boil. It's a very active sensory process of creation. And this active preparation process, that is software implementation, the coding phase. Once the design is finalized, the developers act just like a chef in the kitchen. They take the blueprints and they actually build the product. They're in there writing the code, step by step, exactly like adding ingredients to a boiling pot. Section 4. Testing the taste, quality verification. Now, you wouldn't just serve a recipe you've never even tasted, right? Of course not. Taking a spoon to taste the tea validates the brew. It acts as your baseline quality check, and crucially, it's your error detection. Is it way too sweet? Maybe it's not strong enough? You want to catch those errors right here, right now, before the cup ever reaches the consumer. Tasting your tea serves the exact same function as software testing. Developers and QA teams rigorously test the new code to find any bugs, glitches, or maybe a missing feature. So just like you might adjust the sugar in your tea to get it right, they fix the bugs to ensure the software works flawlessly when it goes live. Section 5. Deployment and delivery. Serving it up. Okay, I want you to picture something for a second. Imagine a beautiful, slow-motion, cinematic pour of that perfectly brewed tea right into a serving cup. That smooth, satisfying action, that represents successful software deployment. You're taking the finished product from the development environment, which is the pod, and moving it into the live, accessible environment, the cup. And then presenting that finished cup directly to the waiting customer, that is the equivalent of actual product delivery. The software is no longer just sitting on some developer's local machine. It's been formally handed over. It's live, and it's totally ready to be consumed by the people who asked for it in the first place. Section 6. The customer experience. Sips and smiles. When a customer takes that first sip and smiles, you know the product is a resounding success. In the software development lifecycle, this amazing moment represents passing user acceptance testing, what we often call UAT, and getting that final client approval. The client has essentially tasted the software, and they agree that it's exactly what they ordered. But hey, this cycle doesn't just stop at one happy customer, does it? When that satisfied customer brings their friends back to get more tea, that powerful retention and referral engine kicks into high gear. In the tech world, this represents true business growth. It's all those future opportunities that just naturally arise simply because you delivered a stellar, fully functioning product. So let's bring this all together now. From gathering ingredients in the kitchen all the way to securing those highly coveted client referrals, every single step maps perfectly to the software development lifecycle. Your preparation is your requirements and design. Your cooking is your coding. And your tasting, that's your testing. It really is a direct one-to-one blueprint for success. Great software is built exactly like great tea. You got to understand your requirements, choose the right approach, build it carefully, test thoroughly, deploy with confidence, and keep those customers satisfied. So the very next time an app crashes on your phone or a website just completely fails to load, I want you to ask yourself, which step of the recipe did they skip? Thanks so much for joining me for this explainer. I really hope this totally changes how you view the SDLC.